I've only won deals when I had a conversation with a prospective client, right? That's the only time. There's nothing that technology can do to win a deal for you.
When are we going to get replaced, if ever, via AI?
I don't think that there's any technology other than this. For the last 2 decades, it's always this next tech thing, this next tech thing. Now it's...
Hi, my name is Will, and welcome to today's episode of the Salesman podcast. On today's episode, we have Anthony Iannarino. He is a multi-time best-selling author and a well-known sales trainer. And on today's episode, Anthony is vigorously pushing back against all of the AI and sales tool hype. And he's encouraging myself and everyone else watching this, consuming this content, to lean into having better sales conversations. His hypothesis, his theory is that sales conversations are underutilized, underrated, and skilling them up is the quickest way to improve our sales performance. So with that said, let's jump right in. Hi, Anthony, and welcome to the Salesman podcast.
It's good to see you again. It's been a long time.
Yes, we were just talking off camera for the audience, but it's been about 3 years since I stopped doing these kind of one-on-one interviews. And so there is some friendly faces coming back because I probably interviewed you 3, maybe even 4 times at this point, right?
Yeah, probably that sounds right.
Cool. Right. Well, a massively loaded and leading question to get the show started off, and then we can go a bit broader from that perhaps. But for the salesperson listening to this, the quota-carrying salesperson who wants to increase their revenue, we're at the top of the year now, so people have probably got plans in place to do the kind of doing their forecasts. They want to increase their revenue. Should they be focused on leveling up their sales stat or leveling up their conversational skills?
Yeah, I have a very strong opinion on this, as you might know. So, I've only won deals when I had a conversation with a prospective client, right? That's the only time. I've also only lost a deal by having a conversation. And I'm going to tell you, like, this is just an index card. When I learned to sell in B2B enterprise, all I had was an index card, a Sharpie, a phone, and a finger to dial. That's it. And now we have so many things that are in the tech stack. And I'm watching sales leaders, the worst of the groups that I've seen, has 700 reps, and they spent more than $2,000 per each person. And there's nothing that technology can do to win a deal for you. It just doesn't work that way. So we've been, I would say, for the last 2 decades, it's always this next tech thing, this next tech thing. Now it's AI, and I'm a big fan of AI. I use it every single day, but it doesn't do anything to win deals. So if what we're supposed to be doing is having conversations with our prospective clients and winning deals, I don't think that there's any technology other than this and being able to talk. That's it. So I'm concerned that more and more people think that as we get more and better technology, that's going to do something to produce better results. But if you look at the data, quota attainment is something like 17%. That's awful. If you look at win rates are about the same in enterprise level. And it just doesn't make any sense to do a whole bunch of technology things when the only thing that wins is a conversation. So I am mostly focused on how do we have those kind of conversations and how do we create value for people as we're having these conversations with them. And the way that I think about this, Will, is that the client is making a rare decision that's strategic for them that they are trying to get done in the first attempt. That's what they're trying to do. They hope that the first thing that they do works for them, and they want that decision to be done right and that everybody's going to be happy with what they did there. So I don't think you can do it with technology. I don't think it can help, but I think what can help is having the right conversations about their problems, about what is possible, what might not be possible for you, even though other people have the ability to do it with what they have. And I think that the more we spend time trying to understand what and how they need to be able to execute something that would be strategic for them and that would move them forward, we don't even think about these things. You never see anybody or hear anybody, maybe just me, talking about just the conversation. We talk about all the other things around it, but we don't talk about the thing that we actually do that causes us to win deals. So
why don't we talk more about it?
I think that it's just because there's so many other things that we're being talked about. So people, if you're a rep and you have all kinds of people that want to talk to you, your sales manager wants to talk to you, the sales leaders want to talk to you, marketing wants to talk to you. All of these people are vying for your attention and trying to do the best they can to be successful. And I just don't think that any of this is important. I think the most important thing is there are people who need help. Our job is to go out and find those people and then to have the conversations with them. And when I say something like creating value, most of the people who say that don't really understand what it means. So what you're supposed to be doing is this person's trying to make a decision. You have to give them all of the information and the insights that you have so that they can make a good decision. And when you start with what we call the legacy approach, where we start with like, this is my company, this is our clients, this is our solutions, you're not helping anybody. And people still think that that they buy drills, but people don't buy drills, they buy holes. And that's the thing. So we have taught people for a long time to prioritize the solution. That's what they're supposed to be doing. That's what a lot of sales leaders want them to do. They love the solution so much that they can't stop themselves from trying to tell everybody everything about the solution. And it just doesn't work. It stopped working, as far as I could tell, it was about 2000. I think that's when it didn't work. Because I was doing the legacy before that. So I knew it was working up until that point, and then it stopped. It just died, just like that. So that means you have to have another conversation. And I don't think that we've been training. I don't think we've been developing. I don't think we've been coaching people to think about the conversation and what might that client need to know. And I'll say this another way, Will. If you do the same thing, you sell every single day. You sell the same thing every day. Your client buys once every 5 years. They have no idea what's changed in those 5 years. But you've had at that period of time all these experiences of conversations that you're helping people to make a good decision with. So you have so much more knowledge that you should be helping the client by proactively telling them what they need to know. So most of us, if we do the same thing for a long time, we end up with a great number of experiences that allows us to have that conversation with people. Have you ever heard anybody even say anything about how much do we know that they don't know, that if we could give them that same knowledge and experiences that we've had, how much better would they have do winning in the person feeling like they really now understand how to make a decision, especially in enterprise. That's where I do most of my work, is big deals, $7.5 million, that kind of thing. So big deals. People want to make sure that they're going to be successful when they make that decision. And if we're not helping them to understand that, then I think that we have problems. And I think that's why a lot of people have low win rates, is because they don't understand the conversation that they have to. And some of them don't believe that they know more than their clients do, even though they have. Well, I had a guy that told me, I asked him how many meetings does he have in a week. He said 20. That's a lot of meetings. Now it's pretty transactional for him. And then I said, well, how many weeks out of the year do you do 20? He said, every week. I'm like, that's 1,000 meetings that you had. Short ones, easy buy. But that's a lot of experience of having something. And he didn't believe that he knew more than his clients did. And the clients buy from him 5 to 7 years. They have no idea what's going on. The world keeps changing as fast as it can go. And I think that we don't take that into account. And I think that people who understand this, they understand that I can tell this person what they need to do because I have so much experience doing it. And I think that we've missed all this for 2 decades. I think I'm the only person that really cares about the conversation from what I can see. I mean, there's a lot of stuff, like look at LinkedIn and there's all kinds of the things being talked about, but not about how to have a conversation with a client. That doesn't show up there. I don't know why. It's odd.
It reminds me of, in my first medical device sales role, selling endoscopic camera system to surgeons, I had a bit of a hang-up on boldly telling a surgeon how to use the tools that we were selling. And obviously in medical devices, it's 20% sales, it's 80% customer service and tech support, basically. You would spend a lot of my time teaching the nursing staff to press one button to print an image over and over and over again, as well as the surgeons, the registrars, and what scope to use, what angle of kind of attack of the scope, all the different kind of nuances of the equipment that we'd sell. So I had this bit of a hang up, and it was the internal sales coach at the first company that I worked at who outlined essentially what you just outlined of, you will never know as much as these surgeons about the procedure. You will never know as much as these surgeons about 10% of the procedure, but you may know more about that sliver of what endoscope to use inside the patient in 3 of the procedures out of the 20 that the surgeon does, but perhaps the 3 most common that you spend in the operating room with the individuals. And that was like a light bulb moment for me of, yeah. And I should be confident about what I'm communicating, not because perhaps I have the hands-on experience of doing the lap chole, whatever the arthroscopy, whatever the procedure is, but because high-level surgeons have come in, developed these tools with our organization, and then you've had training directly from those high-level individuals on how to communicate, or what you should communicate to the, I say this, I don't mean to say this flippantly, but the somewhat more average generic surgeon who's doing procedures day in, day out. So that was a light bulb moment for me. So with that said then, when we're talking about business acumen and we're talking about how we can make a hypothesis of the value that we get or how we can help the buyer, and we think about this idea that we're having the same conversation 5 times a week, they're having it once every 5 years, is the bottleneck to people leaning into this the confidence in themselves, as in people have hang-ups about being a salesperson, never mind if you're speaking to an executive and you see them on a pedestal in front of you, or is it that they just don't understand the value that they could potentially offer? They just don't know that they've got all this experience.
I think that's true. I tend to, when I have a client that I'm close enough to, like I'll normally at dinner or something like that, I normally just grab them and say, as a sales leader, like I'll generally say something like, how long was it going to take you to understand how this is working here? Like, I mean, yeah, I understand that you don't get this. And they start laughing right away. And I keep telling them, like, the things that you do just doesn't help your team. So with the sales leader, I have to try to get their attention, maybe with get a laugh, I hope, with them. But I normally grab them a little tighter than they would think I would do that. But just to tell them, like, nobody, you have no idea what you're doing. And they'll laugh and like, I don't know, like I'm a CEO. I'm supposed to know how to do everything, but I can't do that. And they don't really think about, the CEOs, they want revenue, but they don't spend a lot of time thinking about really how they do that. Sales managers do that. And basically, I think if you've been a sales manager, you're probably doing what your sales manager did when you were working for them. And so we keep just moving that down, right? Then the next one goes and the next one goes without really thinking about this. So what I'm most concerned about, I'm writing a new book about it, is we just have to focus on this conversation because the conversations are bad. And if you've listened to people, they're not helpful. And it's why they have low win rates and low quota attainment. And we have to do something about it. So that's my opinion.
Is this some of this from so this isn't a sales leadership podcast, right? But probably about 15-20% of the audience are in sales management, sales leadership. And probably about 30% of the audience are business owners as well. So pulling back the curtain for a second and bringing everyone into the conversation. Does some of the issues here lie in the fact that maybe it's difficult to measure whether a conversation has gone well or poorly, but it's very easy to measure meetings booked in the diary, qualification criteria hit, all the acronyms that we can throw about for the next 15 minutes to kind of measure these things or to kind of label these things. Does it come down to that perhaps, that conversations are, because they're so innately human and you're interacting with an actual person, and they are somewhat difficult to measure the success of?
Well, there's some things that you could use as a proxy there. So something it would be like, did you get a second meeting? If you got a second meeting, that means that they thought you created enough value that they trust you with the time for another meeting. That's a good way to think about it. If somebody buys from you, that means you probably had a really good conversation that helped them. And I think that that's another way that you could look at it to say, how do we know? I've had 5 very large clients, all over $15 billion in revenue. And I had 5 of those people tell me, we can get a first meeting with anybody that we want. Everybody knows us. Everybody knows our reputation. It's very easy to get the first meeting. And then they told me, but we can't get a second meeting. And I said, why can't you get a second meeting? And they said, we don't know why we can't get a second meeting, but we can get a first meeting. And I said, well, if your first meeting is going to determine whether you get the second meeting, and after I watched a number of them, just legacy. We're going to tell you who we are. Everybody already knows who they are. They know what they do. They know the clients, everything. They don't think this way, but the thinking that they should have is, we have to create value for them if we want another meeting. And if you get the second meeting, then you can probably get a third meeting per side, as long as you are still creating value. When I say creating value, I would say that's transferring our experiences and what we know that the client doesn't know. And when those things show up for them, they think that they're getting the best of this. Like, you're teaching me these things that I didn't know. I generally start every sales conversation with an executive briefing, explaining to them why they already have the problems that they have. And that's another thing that I'm also unhappy about. I saw something on LinkedIn yesterday where somebody asked me, do you think AI is going to be able to identify the root cause of a problem? And I had to write back, if you do this every day, how could you not know the problems that they have? And how could you not know the root cause of those things? So if you show up and you have to ask the client what their problem is and what the root cause, I think you've already lost. I think I wouldn't take another meeting with somebody like that. They should know the problems that they're supposed to be solving. Do you agree with that? Yeah.
We should have I think we are people who even do have a hypothesis of of the problem, the root cause, and the value that we can offer. I don't think people are even bold enough with that. I'd rather someone jump on a call with me and have a bold hypothesis that is slightly off than a more just shallow hypothesis that is probably kind of right.
I had HubSpot call me one time. I wasn't expecting them. They just cold called me, even though they were pretending like they didn't cold call at that time, but they were. So I took the call, and the guy said, I'm looking at what you're doing, and I understand that you want to grow your list. He was right. His hypothesis it was right. So everything was right there. And we had a conversation he was a really good sales rep. We talked for a little while. Then he became a bad salesperson. He said, if I gave you a discount of this percent, would you buy by Friday? And I was like, oh, you're doing such a good job up until now. And now you decided to just go the easy route, right? But he got his deal, and I'm still with HubSpot. And he had a theory that was right, and he was right, and it has worked for me. And those are the kinds of things. You're right. I think it's better when somebody has some theory that this could be better for you. And if you have some way to validate that, I think that's the right way to do it. But I'm always worried when people think that you're going to ask them about their problem. I don't understand that. Like, you should know those problems. You should also know the root causes. Maybe you get one that's like a one-off that shows up, but I think that you should have that because you're supposed to be leading the client, and the client's not supposed to be leading you. You're supposed to be telling them what they need to do. If they aren't getting the results that they need, then that's your responsibility to make sure that they get what they need to do and how to do it. So that's my belief on these things.
Yeah, I find that when I enter a conversation with a bold hypothesis, it might end up being something completely different that we end up working together on. And it might be, because then you get to have a conversation and you can do a bit of digging and you can essentially consult with them, right? And find, sometimes people don't know what the issues are, and you can only hypothesize what they are until you go a few levels deeper and you find out, oh, it's not actually them, it's this tool, it's this process, it's just the marketplace. They need to adapt and change. But I think having that strong, bold hypothesis of value, typically that leads a conversation, that starts a conversation with momentum, and then they want to work with you. Then it becomes, it's cheesy to say, but it becomes a little bit more collaborative then as you go down the rabbit hole, and you're less of a pesky salesperson just trying to do what that dude from HubSpot did, which is kind of almost bait and switch it of, I understand your problem, I need to hit my quota by Friday, can you help me out?
Yeah.
One question on that, Anthony. You said you started off as a good salesperson and moved to a bad salesperson. If you did the deal with him, is he still a bad person even though the deal got closed and you're still using HubSpot?
I just said he became a bad salesperson because he didn't have to give me that 30% off. But he didn't have to. He wanted to. So he just took the easiest route.
Sure.
And instead of trying to make me pay for the whole thing, but he didn't. So I don't know. I think at that time they were probably just trying to roll that up as much as they could. So I think he probably was allowed to do that.
Cool. And be practical, just for the end of the episode here. Are there any, not necessarily processes or systems or tools with our conversations, but is there anything that we should absolutely, like active listening, for example, we should be paying attention during the conversation. Are there any fundamentals that we should be trying to implement in probably outside of sales as well, but are there any fundamentals that we should be proactively trying to engineer into our conversations so that they end up, better for everyone involved?
My opinion is that you should be an expert and an authority in your industry. So that means you have to have the experience You have to know the things that your clients don't know, and you have to teach them what they need to know to make that rare decision that's strategic that they're trying to get done in the first attempt. So I think that if you want something practical and tactical, if you are listening to this and you're a salesperson and you want to make more money, win more deals, I would sit down and I would challenge you to make a list of things that you know that your clients don't know, that if they knew those things, they would have a better ability to make a decision, whether it's buying from you or somebody else. That's what I think we're supposed to be doing. But I don't think people sit down and make a list of, like, what are the 5 problems that we see every day? What are the root cause of those? And I think you look like you're a greenhorn, like
What's a greenhorn?
Yep, saw this before, right?
What's a greenhorn? I've not heard that terminology before.
A greenhorn is somebody that doesn't have any experience.
Sure.
Yeah, but you sound like one when you ask somebody, what kind of problems do you have? If it's your first day on a brand new job, okay. But if you've been doing it for 3 years and you don't know all these things, and you're still a greenhorn, not good.
Yeah, so I feel like this is part of the problem with, and I see a lot of, I don't know about you, I'll ask you this. I see a lot of companies slowly shifting away from the split from SDR, BDR to AE and having more full stack, full cycle salespeople. And I've always assumed this of some, budget SDRs are awesome. A lot of them are terrible, but it's a 19-year-old, 23-year-old straight out of university, just thrown in with a bunch of technology to spam a marketplace. And then they're trying to book meetings with essentially important people who have the power to make large kind of purchase decisions. And then it's a weird transition to the person who actually hopefully understands the market, has been in the role for a bit longer. Obviously, how long you've been in a role doesn't necessarily equate to your experience and your knowledge. You can speed up that knowledge acquisition and your business acumen by making a little bit of effort over time. But I always thought that was a weird kind of way to set up if you're trying to help the buyer move through their buyer's journey, surely you want to put the buyer in front of someone who knows what they're talking about as quick as possible.
Well, I think finally we got to the point of where SaaS is now, like, it's so commoditized. You're seeing less BDRs and SDRs because there's so many competitors now. I think that it's the way I would do something with if I have a new person who is a greenhorn, the first thing I would do is put them with somebody who already knows the sales conversations. And then I would make them write down every single question the client asked in their answers, and what the good salesperson asked and why they asked. And I make people take a journal with them. What I ask them to do is, you take all the notes for the person that's actually running the conversation. And then when you get in the car or you get back to wherever you're going to go, ask every question that you can think of about, like, why did you ask that? What did you expect they were going to say? And you can speed up the acquisition of the conversation. And I think that's a really important thing to do. You can be really discouraged on your first sales job and at how hard it is when you have no idea how it goes. But if you've seen it and you've watched it and you've asked the questions, you have a much better time.
Absolutely. Final question for you, and that is, how important is it? Obviously, it's important, but how important is it for you to be congruent in the questions that you're asking, rather than senior salesperson gives you a list of questions they ask, and then you just regurgitate them?
Well, that's a good way to do it. Like, if you've got good questions or you've got good answers to those questions, I would try to get it to the people that need it as fast as I could. I don't want them to spend a whole lot of time losing and not feeling comfortable. And the other thing that I would say that I try to get all of my clients to do is just role play. Just role play.
Sure.
They
Everyone
don't want
hates
to.
role play though, don't they?
I know, but if you some of the biggest clients that I've worked with, that's all I did with them, and they started to figure out how to have a better conversation on their own, and they're doing much better after that. I know, but role playing is how you do it.
Yep.
We're going to see that in AI. You're going to see AI doing role plays already.
Yep. But AI tools, we've used a couple of them at salesman.com. Obviously, probably the same as you. People invite us to check stuff out because they hope we're going to talk about it and promote it kind of inadvertently or overtly with sponsorships. But I think there's still tremendous value in role playing with even though everyone hates doing it because it's kind of awkward. And, you know, if you're not friends with your colleague and your team, probably a different conversation for another time, but it can still be a bit awkward. And your sales manager's looking over your shoulder. But the person-to-person role plays, I think, have tremendous value because you then get the feeling of the person doing the thing to you and you go, oh, that made me feel a bit gross when he or she said that.
Yeah.
I won't do it. And that is a very quick feedback loop because now you are logically, this question should work, but now emotionally, you're getting hit with these questions that give you that bit of the ick in your stomach.
Yeah.
Or that you don't know how to answer, or that they say them and it sounds a bit weird. There's a bunch of nuance that AI will get there, obviously. We will get to a point where it will understand all these nuances, but the tools we've tried just aren't quite there yet.
I've seen one that works that very good. It's built on GPT, and you are having the conversation with the GTP. I mean, you're doing it right there, and then there's a scoring on the thing. And the person that built this, I watched him go through the conversation with his own chat GPT that's built into his platform. And he couldn't get past it. Yeah. He didn't get a good grade. He got like a 50%. But that is, I think we're going to see a lot of that. I think there'll be a lot of AI trainers now.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of the promise with all of the conversational analysis tools. I won't mention any names, but the promise was we're going to get all this data. We're going to be able to give you real-time feedback on calls even of stop saying this, let them speak. And I've never seen any of that materialize. Again, 3 years since I stopped doing these podcast interviews. In that 3-year period, everything is shot forward and those tools aren't really in the conversation as much anymore.
Yeah, I think those are these trends on technologies, they just come and go. There'll be something else. I think it's going to be AI for a while. It's just it's just consuming everything, I think.
When are we going to, final question for you, when are we going to get replaced, if ever, via AI?
I think that anybody that doesn't have the ability to create real value, I think those are going first. So you're seeing the BDRs and the SDRs, right? Those are gone. I think that in the future, enterprise level is going to continue to have salespeople always, because there's too much at risk. There's too much fear of getting something wrong. And they want somebody who is what I would describe as an expert and an authority. And those are the people that they'll be here for a long time. There's always been, go back to the Bible, go to Egypt and look, every king, every pharaoh always had smart people around them that knew things that they didn't know. That's never going to go away. That's a human thing. Humans look for other humans to help them think through their decision making, and that's the way I would think of this. So if you open up any part of the Bible, go any like Aristotle, like he had people helping him, like everybody does. So I think that we're going to be there for a long time. The people who can't create that value are not going to be salespeople. They're going to find something else to do.
Nice. Well, we'll wrap things up with that. So with that, Anthony, tell us where we can find out more about you, the books, if you want to. I don't know if you're writing your current books, you don't have a landing page or anything ready for that. But anything else you want to share with the audience?
The easiest place to find me is probably LinkedIn, and you can find me there. And you can also find me at thesalesblog.com. And there's about 5,600 blog posts there. So it's basically like a search. You can just search for just about anything. I've already written it. So
nice. Well, I'll link to all of that in the show notes over at salesman.com. And with that, I want to thank you again for joining us on the Salesman Podcast.
Good to see you again. Thank you.